Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Writers Drinking Whiskey, your literary happy hour, the show where murder is fun, as long as it's amongst friends and fictional. I'm your host and chief investigator, William R. Hincy, and joining me today, I'm really honored and thrilled to have ongoing person of interest, Sue Alcon O'Connor, with me. Sue, welcome to the bar.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm really stoked to have you here. So let me give you the 2-cent introduction, and then you can correct anything I miss or I got wrong, and then add anything I might have missed. So I know you wrote The Bone Shelter, which you'll be reading from today, and then the upcoming work. I believe you told me, or Mr. Dario told me, who's dear friend of the show, who introduced us. The upcoming book is The Justified Murder of Crows.
Yes.
I'm correct. Okay, perfect. And you're reading from both of those today. And then, sure. Awesome. And then we have, and I know you mentioned on our emails going back and forth that you're also really passionate, and I saw it on your website as well, that you're passionate about veterans getting screened for environmental hazards.
Right.
They may be exposed to during service. So and we'll talk about all those things. Is there anything you'd like to add to that brief intro?
Not really. I'm a Denver native. The books take place in a small town in Colorado, farther east than where I live. It's gotten to the point where I have people think it's a real place, which thrills me to no end. I don't know, it's just like one of those kind of places where I wouldn't want to live because bad things happen all the time.
Sure, it's better. I had on Dana King was a gentleman's name, and he made up a fictional town back in like Western Pennsylvania, and they say, I based it on this place, but he's like, I didn't want to base it on a real place because then if I do, I'm making all these murders happen there all the time, Like, what are the people going to think there? The mayor is going to be sending me nasty letters. So I hear you. You probably made a good choice there.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin a small town's, reputation.
It's I'm from Palmdale, which is so actually you mentioned Pasadena. Was that Pasadena? Is there a Pasadena in Colorado?
No.
Okay.
Pasadena, California. I figured that's as far away from we can get to the west as it can be. So
okay, Pasadena's right down the road from me.
Oh,
so
really?
Yeah, and so. If you ever see like their Rose Parade, they always like to show the mountains behind there. Those are the San Gabriel Mountains. Sometimes they have snow. It's usually further back from Pasadena, the higher peaks. But those are about, I forget how long. They're pretty long, and they connect to a couple other mountain passages. But the San Gabriels are about 20 miles thick, And so there's LA and there's Pasadena on the one side of where I am now, and Glendora is down the foothill, a little east of Pasadena. And then you go the other 20 miles after you get past those, and you go further out to the Mojave Desert. You have Palmdale, where I grew up. So, and it's kind of, I tell people it's like the Florida of California. So it's like whatever weird happens there. So whenever I write about Palmdale, I don't feel bad because I'm like, nothing I write can be worse. Like this, I'm going to write something tame in comparison to reality there. So.
That would probably be something like Commerce City, which is right outside of Denver. Sorry, kids. I have a son that lives in Commerce City, but, grass won't even grow. It's just so polluted, and who knows what's out there. It's a mystery to me, but you can smell Commerce City when you're driving in. Sorry, Commerce City people, but it's true.
Very good. And I like to ask, so you're outside of Denver. So because usually I ask, where in the world are you? And then where's the place to get a drink? Or in this case, I thought it might be fun because your books are have you read The Bone Shelter and things, right? They're very they're quirky in a good way, and some people take that wrong. I always, when people say my writing's quirky, I always like it because it's different. And there's really humorous and things. So I thought it'd be funny. Maybe you could tell me what was like the funniest or strangest thing that ever happened in your neck of the woods.
In my neck of the woods, well, it's kind of strange. I live right on the cusp of the Columbine border. So we are in the Denver area. So I'm like 50 feet from the Columbine border, and people can't quite, make that distinction. But it's like you got, they used to call us the Blue Ghetto because policemen and firemen and city workers all lived where I do, where we're in Denver County. And across the street, you've got these big houses that all were in Jefferson County, which is a much more affluent like area. So we're kind of known for being the place where the fences blow over and people ignore them, but so be it,
Yeah, very good. Awesome. So my favorite question of the show, what are we drinking?
Oh, okay. We are drinking something called Quiet Man, and it is a single malt Irish whiskey. And it's 8 years old, and shout out to my granddaughter, who is also 8 years old today.
Oh, very
Hi,
good.
Andy.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And the reason my whole family drinks this whiskey, my son was 41 when he passed away from colon cancer. He was a sailor on USS San Juan, which is a submarine, a nuclear submarine. And he was exposed to radiation. And hopefully we can put a link to Veterans Affairs someplace.
Sure.
Anyway, he was a big, quiet man, unbelievably intelligent, got a degree in nuclear engineering, and was exposed when sailors are discharged and they've been on a submarine that deals with radioactive material. They all come away with partial disability. So the Navy knows. And usually this sort of thing creeps up on sailors about 10 to 15 years after the fact. He had no idea. He was a young man. And he passed away after getting a job and just being up for promotion with the patent department in DC. So it was a shock to everyone. He left behind a 5-year-old and a 2-month-old baby. And that's, for the most part, why I began to write, is because I wanted to write in my books at the beginning, sailors, if you're listening to me, and even if you're in your 30s, go. Do it for your family. Call me. Seriously, write me. I will go wait. And tell you butt jokes while we're sitting there waiting for the dog. But anyway, that's why Quiet Man, because he didn't really talk unless he had something to say. So here's to my boy.
Here's your boy.
And I feel like there have been a few people that have gotten checked since he did pass away and have found something suspicious. And so he has done some good, even away from us.
Right.
But so that's why I write, so that I can say to sailors to really please do this for us, for your mom, for your wives, for your kids. It's not fun, but it's not horrible either.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. No. My dad has stage 4 colon cancer. Which is, he's amazing. I sometimes wonder if my dad's like is part robot or something. And he watches the show, so he'll hear me saying this. He's probably heard me say it anyways. Because hi, Dad. He came down with stage 4 colon cancer. I mean, we're going on. It's more than 10 years. And they didn't think he was going to have 18 months. And then he's, it's been amazing. So every day is kind of a blessing that we've had him over that. But when because of that, and because they caught it so late, that right when I turned, I think it was 40, and also there was the actor Chadwick Boseman, played Black Panther and stuff, that passed away.
Yes.
Very young too. Also kind of, I think he was at the same age as me, so I think it was like 42 or something.
Right.
And my wife's like, you have to go get checked. You have to go get checked. So
yeah, it's not.
It's really not, actually.
Usually afterwards, somebody will take you to breakfast, and then you go home and take a nap, and you don't have to work that day. And I know, but it's all okay. Just, get your jokes in line to tell the doctor before you go. I have a friend who, her doctor used to be an attorney. And when you're a little goofy coming out of anesthesia, you say some stuff, And so she looked at him and she said, "So when did you decide to start working with assholes instead of being one?" And the nurses were all like, "You're our favorite patient today."
Yeah, I know. That's a great line.
Well, I hope your dad is okay. And my son let it go way too long. Namely, COVID was going on, and he was a quiet man. Who did, you don't talk about these kind of things. And
no. Thanks for sharing that. And then if you send me the link, I always do a little question at the end of the show, for the audience. And I was planning today to ask everyone kind of what is their causes that they're interested in. And so I'll put it as the pinned comment on there, the link on there. I can add it to the description too, but the description gets long with everything. So we'll put it right there as a comment so anyone can find it and get right to it.
It's a direct link to people in the military that have been exposed to hazardous materials. So that includes Agent Orange and things of that nature. So
sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So we'll include it there after the show. I wonder that. So I know you said so you started writing because you like to put that right in the front there. Right. But when we were communicating with email, you said you had started younger in life and then kind of put it aside until much later. Yeah. So maybe you can kind of tell me about that, your kind of author journey leading up till today.
I'm one of those people that wrote little things, even as a kid. They were silly and funny and lighthearted. And I continued, through high school and was on like the newspaper staff in high school and things of that nature. And I would write. I can rhyme anything, and so I would write these poems and little stories, and most of them were a little bit inappropriate. And so I had a creative writing teacher in 11th grade who said, "I love your stuff. I love it so much. It's so sad that you'll never be able to do anything with it." Right. And being 17 years old and impressionable and insecure, I was like, she's a grown-up, she knows. And I stopped.
Did she say why? It's just this comment she made with no...
It's just goofy, funny things. And she just made this comment. And it comes down to what you say to children matters.
Sure.
They remember. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I put it away and went on to live my life and do one thing after another, had a family, all of this. And after my son passed away, it was different. It didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter what anybody thought. And
sure.
Dario was the one that said, "Well, show me something that you wrote." And it's fine. I don't care if you hate it or not. And so I sent it to him. And he said, "I've got good news and bad news." And you're like, "Okay." He goes, "The good news is I really liked it. It was the beginning of the Bone Shelter." As the bad news is it's not a short story. This is a novel. And I was like, that's all I need. So for the next few months, all I did is write, and create this town where there was no grieving moms and sick children. And I swear it saved me. And after it was finished, it was such a big feeling of accomplishment and such a happy, it had its dark, bad places, but it all came together at the end in a way that was satisfying. And then I was hooked, and lucky me, people liked it. I think another thing that made me start writing again was I started to read Christopher Moore. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I know who he is. I don't know that I've ever read any of his work,
you
but
got
I know
it.
who you're talking about.
So much fun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know what? My writing is kind of like Chris Moore's writing if you bought it from Team, you know? So I was like, why not? So, and since then I've been writing again, and I know my creative writing teacher in high school is probably long gone, but you know, whatever. Here's to you, Mrs. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's always so strange. I don't, I had the opposite problem. Was if someone had told me that, I should. I'm gonna tell the story. Anyways, so I was always if you told me I couldn't, that meant I absolutely must do that thing, no matter how painful. And even if I decide I don't want to, I will have to do that because like I've been challenged. So that really played out with. So we're a blended family. So I had two girls when I was younger. My oldest daughters, Rhiannon and Cassidy. My wife, she had our daughter now, but she had a daughter, Michaela, with her ex-husband, and then we got together. And so the older two were actually grown and yelling out of the house, but Michaela just graduated high school, and then when we got together, we had our son William. Because my families were really unique in naming our sons. So if you can guess my name, you can guess my dad's name, his dad's name, like 7 generations or something to William Hennessy in Ireland, way back when. And so, but with their mom, everyone kept going, Billy, you should date her. Like, this is going to end well, and because people said like, oh, you shouldn't date her. I was like, no, I absolutely must date her.
You dated your wife out of children.
Well, no, not my wife now. Oh, okay. We never married, but my older daughter's mom. I was like, I had wanted to date her, but then once people said that, I was like, no, and not only will I date her, I'm gonna have children with her because time will show you. I think I've gotten more temperate as I've gotten older. I'm not sure, but I didn't marry my current wife because of that, so that's probably improvement. So a little character development there. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's sad when you hear that because you don't know how it's going to go, right? Like it's like I always tell the kids, like, if you want to do something in the arts, then it might be hard to make a living at it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it means you need to maybe think of other ways you can also make money. You can have So until about 2 weeks ago, I was working full time as a director of quality for a medical device company. So you could do that. You can go full board with it, but and you can make a living, but you got to just be aware of that it may be difficult. Right. And so don't think, oh, this is the way to riches, because it may be, but that's a lottery ticket, right? That's getting to the right person at the right time, kind of the right cultural moment, everything else. If you want to be the next, J.K. Rowling's, everything else, you do it for the love and you work hard and you figure out the finances.
It's good to have your parents at your back too. My middle son, Logan, he, ever since he was just a small child, he wanted to play the tuba so bad. And I'm like, I can't even pick up a tuba. What are you thinking? But, it came like my boys and daughter were the real men were in the band. And so he got his tuba when he was 3rd grade, ended up playing in Tuba Christmas. He was the youngest person in Tuba Christmas ever.
Very cool.
It was so much fun. And then he got into middle school and they needed a bass guitarist. So it's easy to switch,
Oh, sure.
And I like to tell them, if you could play the bass guitar in a rock and roll type situation, the tuba would do the same thing. Really, this was the bass note. So he started playing guitar, and he is 41 now, and he's in a band called MF Ruckus. They travel all around. He still plays the bass guitar, And so I am so ever grateful for buying him that tuba.
Right, sure,
Yeah.
sure. And what is tuba Christmas? Is that just they just play the tuba like a Christmas pageant?
It's a bunch of old men with tubas. And they all have green hats with pom-poms on them and scarves. It's a tuba Christmas. And they all play Christmas music. So sometimes there's like 200 of them. I think it's still in existence. But Logan was probably about 10 when he played Tuba Christmas, and he got his picture in the newspaper and all this. He was so proud. He's going to just hate it that I'm telling everybody about his tuba, because now he's, I have a tuba in the garage if anybody wants it.
Well, if you send me a screenshot of that article, we can just paste it here and he can get, spread it around the interweb. I'm fascinated with tuba Christmas now.
Yeah, look it up. It was lots of fun. I mean, it was all just, kind of 3 notes of Silent Night, and everybody had a good time. It was lots of fun.
Right, very good. So with the writing, I know you said you took it and that helped you just kind of get over is probably not the right word, right? I don't know that you ever get over
take heal,
step, but just to start to heal with it. So is it mainly like a therapeutic thing? Was there
now with the bone shelter it was, and I feel like I was fairly cautious with it because I was new at this,
Sure.
And with this latest book, I think I've kind of thrown caution to the wind and said the hell with it. And if somebody gets angry with me and is protesting outside of my door, so be it, it'll be just advertising, free advertising. So it's a bit all over the place and fun. So it's still very therapeutic. I see Patton, Colorado as my safe place, but I've never been the kind of person that had any kind of religion or background of that at all. I think I lost my religion when I was 8 years old, and I don't know if this is okay to talk about.
No, yeah, go for it.
But I remember my dad was very Catholic and was standing outside the Catholic church, and I had forgotten my head doily thing that you have to wear into Mass. I don't know if you have to still. But I had all these old ladies just swarming me, just losing their minds because my head wasn't covered and trying to put Kleenex on my head. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I think that was probably the last time I was in a church. So, Patton, Colorado was kind of my spiritual place, I suppose. But
sure.
Grieving moms do very strange things. You grasp at straws. You look for answers anywhere that you can. And this grieving mom went to a psychic.
Okay.
And I was just, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Why am I spending $200 to go to a psychic? So, long story short, she starts talking to me. And after Marshall had passed away, we had redone our kitchen, and the whole kitchen was new. It was gutted from top to bottom. And one of the corners of the kitchen was always known as a snack corner, and that's where the potato chips were and the cookies were. If I'd baked it there, even my father would come in and go straight to the snack corner. I mean, that's just where you go. And Marshall is an adult here. That's where the cookies were. So while the countertop was off, I took some of his ashes, wrote a big long letter, sealed them very, very well, and put them inside of my kitchen in the wall in the snack corner. And back to the psychic, she goes on saying the normal psychic crap that I was expecting. And then she said, "Do you have his ashes?" And I said, "Yeah." Normal question, right? Nine-store psychic question. "Did you build them into the wall?" Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I went, wait a minute.
Right.
And she went on and on. They're in the wall. They're in the wall. And so now, I'm like, well, I have no idea where that came from. I've never put it on any kind of social media post.
Sure.
My kids didn't even know that I had built their brother into the wall
Right.
of the new kitchen underneath the cookies. So take of it what you will. But anyway, he's still in the snack corner for someone in the future to find and hopefully leave there.
Right. Sure.
So
I know
that was my psychic experience.
Right. Yeah. That's so interesting. It's so funny because I love I grew up on unsolved mysteries, so I love all things like, like you thought I talk ghosts and UFOs. My wife jokes, like at some point you're just going to have a paranormal podcast. Just start now. And I'm like, maybe we'll get there.
Please let me work on this when you do have it.
For sure. But, psychics is always the one I'm on the fence about the most because you do get so many that's just like clearly garbage, right? You get some that are just swindling, but then you get stories like that all the time, and you're just like, where
this was just so off the wall. There's no way she could have pulled this out of her ass, Bill.
Right.
I mean, it was just so strange. So to this day, I'm still pretty much flabbergasted by it, and there's no way she could have known. But
sure.
Me too. I love ghosts and all things creepy like that. I don't know how much I believe of it, but it sure is fun.
Right. Yeah, I believe it. What do you believe happens like when we pass away? Do you think, like, because I know you said you had the, lost the religion at 8 with the napkin hats.
I don't think it's anything formal. I know that right after he passed away, I had this vivid dream. And this wasn't enough to sway me into anything, but it was like I answered the phone and it was his voice. And it was, Mom, I can't stay long. I just wanted to tell you I'm okay. I can't stay. Tell Liz, his wife, I love her. Click. And I woke up. And it was as if he were there. So I'm not sure if it's some sort of bend in time or some sort of maybe parallel universe type thing. But I really feel after talking to the psychic that somehow she had a handle on both of us.
Right.
And, I will pretend to know what it is or where it is or but it's opened my mind to a lot of questions, that's for sure.
Right.
Most people I tell that story to get goosebumps. So, so I guess I'll just continue, with my path of sitting the fence until I turn to find out what happened.
Sure.
Aliens, all that stuff, so much fun. We took my daughter for her birthday to see the Ancient Alien guys. What's his name?
I forget their names. I know the show. You're talking the guy with the awesome hair. Yeah.
So we went to see them on her birthday, and all things like that are just so much fun, even if you don't 100% buy into it, Did you have like some sort of paranormal experience,
Not really. Little things here or there. There was a time me and my buddy saw, I think I've seen one UFO. Not a very dramatic thing, but so where I mentioned where I grew up in Palmdale, that's also where Edwards Air Force Base, a little further out in the desert, but close by. A lot of people that work at Edwards live in the city. But it's where Northrop Grumman and all the things are. So when they unveiled the B2 and stuff, that's right off Sierra Highway, which was half a mile from my house. And the plant was probably 3 miles from my house, but the street that's right there. When they wheel it out, you can just look, and where they take the pictures from is right there. So there's lots of military things and there's lots of military testing out there. So I don't know if this is aliens or not, but there was a time we were out hiking and so we would see them all the time. And my dad was a pilot and an aerospace engineer. So I've been exposed to these things quite a bit. But there was a time we saw a jet like on the horizon that kind of looked like, honestly, it kind of looked like the Enterprise, but flattened down, like, you know what I mean? Like if it's little warp engines or whatever, like flat, like it's kind of what it looked like. And we saw it on the horizon and looked, and we're just talking, eating some stuff. Obviously, it's like hiking, but we're watching it. We talked about it a little in the course conversation. And then it just went straight across the sky, like no arch or anything, just straight across, right over top of us. So you could see it like perfectly there, like the outline and everything. And they're not exactly detailed, so it was pretty high up. And then it didn't like arch into the horizon. It just kept going straight until it like disappeared as if it was just like skimming, and through, and it looked like no ship. I mean, it wasn't an aircraft or anything like we had ever seen. It kind of looked like SR-71 crossed with the Enterprise is kind of what it looked like. And actually out there's all kinds of SR-71s you can go look at. Right? The little plane museums you could go, that was 2 miles from my house. You can go, be right underneath the SR-71. And so it's like nothing we've ever seen. So it's the UFO, there might have been government aircraft still, I don't know, but not anything I've ever seen, and that was 30 years ago. So, still haven't seen anything
experience. Like that. We were in White Sand, New Mexico, and something flew over that was very similar, and it just it was gone. And I had no idea what that was. They had traffic stop both ways, so the military could play with their toys, and all I could think of when we drove away was that we're going right through this military base in this old Blazer that used to, Chevy Blazer that used to belong to Channel 9 News here in Denver. And it had a big rusty 9 on the top. I thought, man, if the military was going to zero in on anybody, it'd be our Blazer. We'd like having a target on the back. But it was a strange experience, and just looking around White Sands, it was, man, if I had a spaceship, I'd land it right here.
Sure. Oh, you crash it, right? And how close is this? That fairly close to Roswell, or is it?
Yeah, it is fairly close to Roswell. Okay. And it was so eerie driving in because I don't know if you remember a movie called Tank Girl.
I don't think so, no.
It was obscure and stupid, but...
That sounds amazing. I have to watch it.
They had filmed it in White Sands, so right in the middle of nothing, and there's dunes, and that's all there is. It's this old Victorian-looking house and a boat. Huge boat that was like a movie prop, but they just left it to weather, and so, and that's just a real surreal experience. You've never been to like Carlsbad or White Sands, and that's it's really worth a trip.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I would like to go out. We haven't made it to New Mexico yet, but
it's the best
I do want to go out there.
I would love to live in New Mexico. It's like you cross the border from Colorado, and that's like the air changes. Everything is kind of like magical, Colorado looks a lot like New Mexico, but I always tell people Colorado was like New Mexico, but in New Mexico, the people would give you the shirt off their back, and in Colorado, they probably sell it to you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm in California, so they would sell it to you, and you would get taxed 20% on it. So.
Yeah.
So, very good. But yeah, no, this is I had one other dream that was a little weird. We had a little Maltese named Bulba, and we had her almost the two younger kids, basically all their memory. Bulba was there because. My wife got her, we were dating a thing. So like Michaela was probably 2. And she's like, oh, I know if I get this dogs, they're planning to move in and things, right? I'm like, oh, that's fine. Get the dog. And so we get that little dog, my son's born after and things. And she passed away. She's probably going up 3 years, I would guess now, right? So it was really traumatic for the kids and things, and It's really like losing a family member, right? Because it's like all their memory of that dog was there, and the dog passes away. And I kept having, like, a week later, I kept having these really vivid dreams about her. And she's like coming to me, she's all happy, she's playing, and I even told my wife, and she's, I think she was a little jealous actually. She's like, "Why does she go to my dreams?"
I'm the one that.
And then finally, I have a dream. I go, I haven't picked up her ashes. Like, we had taken her to the vet, and they'll give you the dog's ashes and things. And so I had completely forgotten to go to pick them up, and I was like, I need to go get her ashes. So I went down the street, got her ashes. No more dreams.
Yep.
So I don't know if it was just my subconscious going, "Hey, you need to do this," or it's her going, "Hey, you need to do that."
Right. The vivid dreams are different.
They are.
They feel or seem so different. I had one where I was sitting in a bar and my son was next to me, and he told me in no uncertain terms that his wife could not date this one of his friends. And it was so real. And I called her and I'm like, no matter what happens, you can't date. And I'm like, I've told her before that, whatever she decides to do is great with me. I will always be her mother-in-law. But it was so real, and he was just so dead set on it. Like me. But we kind of live in the Addams family house. I'm 67 years old, and I have the heart of a 12-year-old boy. So
Sure.
we remodeled our bathroom and took out the medicine cabinet. Now, this is my chance. So I had ordered a skull from UK, and it looked real. Grew a little bit of hair on its head, put it down in the hole. And so there's all this stuff that looks, somebody's going to have a heart attack when they look inside the wall of my bathroom.
Right.
I'm like, oh God, I would love to see their expression when they see it, because it's just so realistic. It's like this crime scene. I'm sure the police will be called before they.
Right.
You didn't hear it here.
Very good. That's funny. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, there was a episode of Modern Family where they did that, where they went under the house and then they found these bones. And they called the police, and they were like a Halloween decoration or something.
Oh, I love it.
So I can see the police being called for that in the future. So hopefully it's just long enough that it's past the statute of limitations.
Right.
Although I don't think it's illegal. It's your house. You can leave decorations wherever you like.
Can you interview me from prison? I mean, seriously.
We'll do a very special episode. Writers drinking whiskey from San Quentin or whatever the local prison is. Awesome.
Terrible on me. So,
Yeah,
we'll see.
who knows? It grows on you.
Like all my life, I've had little things happen, but I always blew them off until recently.
Sure.
But there was quite a few things that happened in this house, and I didn't really understand why. And people would see things, doors would close, the garbage disposal would turn on and off by itself. I had a friend here, and she was on her computer downstairs watching TV too, and she yelled at her daughter, and her daughter was up here because she thought her daughter was walking back and forth in the television. And I had a dream that someone that was working on this house, because we're the first owners, had tragically passed away somehow, and it had to do with alcohol. And inside of the bathroom cabinet where I put the skull, there were, oh gosh, probably half a dozen beer bottles. It was at that time where you wanted people to do a good job, so you bring them some alcohol. And after I had that dream, that I didn't hear or see anything anymore, but still it was, I was able to brush it away. my son pretty much ruined all my thoughts of time travel. I always saw time travel as like this romantic type thing where you could go back and forward in time. Isn't that nice? He said, Mom, if you do that, you'll end up in space somewhere and be dead within an instant. That's true, because the Earth's always moving, so who knows where you'd end up. Yeah, there goes that romantic idea.
It's just more, computations. It's like Han Solo and like the original Star Wars when they're going to go into light space. And he's like, oh, kid, it's not as easy as just going. We're going to go into a meteor field or whatever. Same thing with your time machine. You put it in the right place. And,
right. We just have to think it through a little bit better, I think. And I read somewhere that all the meteors and asteroids compose Saturn's rings are actually miles and miles and miles apart. You probably wouldn't run into any of them. And you see all these science fiction movies where dodging these asteroids. Like, that's not true.
Sure. Right. It turns out space is actually kind of a boring place. Like, everything is so spread out, right? It's just...
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so boring that you can go on YouTube and look up space sounds and listen to them while you go to sleep.
Sure.
That puts you out like, oh gosh, who needs ambient? All you can do is listen to these spaceship noises, and it's like you're out like that. The whiskey doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. Well, it does help. It does help. I know I need to get me some Quiet Man now that you said that.
Me too.
I like to have Irish whiskeys especially. So I have a bunch here, and my mother-in-law got me some. So my birthday's coming up. And she went to Total Wine and More. It's like a giant liquor store out here. I don't know if they have them out that way or not. But my brother-in-law went, and she's like, oh, it's Bill's birthday. We'll get him this. So what does he like? He's like, oh, he likes the Irish whiskeys. And let's grab it. And I love trying, different ones. So I'll have to look for that one. I remember seeing it, but there's a bunch of them. Yeah. So
I've never seen it either. That was a friend of my daughter-in-law's. They were really close, and she's the one that started the tradition. So every birthday and things like that, we get out the Quiet Man and have a little bit. You don't really need a reason.
This is true. This is true.
There is always more.
Right.
But I think the most interesting thing I've drank lately, anyway, is smoked tequila. Have you ever had it?
Sure. I don't think so. No.
It goes down so smooth. It's the most dangerous stuff in the entire world. It's kind of an amber color, and it doesn't look like tequila at all. And just like swallowing velvet. And then you wake up the next day.
I'll have to try some. Yeah, we got a smoker. My wife has got me so many different smokers at this point, though. But it's like this glass box here. If I could, let's see. I don't think I have too much stuff. If there's a loud commotion and a fire, that's because the bar gets super messy whenever I record, because the recorded stuff takes up a bunch of spaces. But she got me this like a box, and you put the drink in there. That's actually the things inside there are the little pellets, but you put the pellets in like a little gun, and it like smokes it in there. So it's like really dramatic. It does change the taste a little. I don't know how, like, it's good. I don't know that I like it so much more than normal, but it's super cool to see. Actually, you open that door up and all the smoke pours out things.
Right.
Like, it's just a fun little like ceremony.
Like a fog machine or a scary movie.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to make this big fancy cocktail, and I bought stuff to put in it. And wow, I'll get really fancy. And there's this edible glitter stuff that's kind of pearlescent. I thought, you know what? My son would haunt me if I put purple pearlescent garbage in his whiskey. So I didn't do it. I figure I would err on the side of caution.
That's true. Very good. You're going to get an angry phone call the next dream. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, exactly.
No, very good. So I always joke that, with the name of Writers Drinking Whiskey, I'm like ethically mandated to have some writing talk every episode. So I thought though it would be fun to talk with you about is that and I made the joke in the intro to the show about murder being fun and things like that, but you have you fun with like the darker subjects, right? Like the dark humor kind of things like that. So what is it that maybe take us through that? I don't know. I have a specific question, but maybe take us through like why you like to do that, or how you go about doing that.
I mean, there's a chapter in the Bone Shelter called "Murder Makes Us Sad and Cranky," which is true. But it's like in fiction, you can do away with anyone you want and not end up in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. And I think people like to read about creative ways to go.
Mm-hmm.
I took a forensic anthropology class one time just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
The woman that taught it had a necklace of human teeth. And so I'm sitting next to the cutest little old woman with this little bubble hairdo, and she raises her hand very timidly and says, "Can I ask a question?" And sure. How long would it take to dissolve the body in acid? She was writing a book. and you could tell she was just so thrilled with it,
Sure.
I can't imagine writing about anything else, Actually start out with an idea to start with and how it's going to end, and then the whole middle part, it's just hit and miss. And hopefully all the pieces come together. But dark humor is the best. If it's something that you laugh at and then you're ashamed of yourself later for doing it, you've got my attention.
Oh, very good. Very good. I have a problem being ashamed of anything. So I just laugh at it. I was like,
I think that's my 8 years of Catholic upbringing, an Hispanic Catholic upbringing. Double whammy. I know.
Sure.
So,
very true. So do you find, I don't know that if it's passe now or not. And if it is, I still like to talk about it because, I'm an old soul with a like a 9-year-old boy's heart,
Yep. I think you want to be best friends.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. But they like to talk about like truth and beauty, right? Used to be something we talked about with art and, fiction, especially. Is there a certain type of beauty you find in the macabre and things like the, murder and different things like that? Or is that?
It's so taboo. I think things that are taboo have their own kind of beauty, be it in a book or in a film or any of it, and exploring it and doing it in a way that people are actually rooting for the next guy to, bite the dust. I feel like you've really done your job if you can get to that point, which is different than opening a book and reading it, and the characters are so flat that you can't wait for them to die. Right. So, but I do find a lot of humor in writing about dark things. So I figure in every book I'll just place a little something that is out of place and dark. The first book had Elvis Presley's gun in it, and I figure I put it in this book too, and so the next one probably will have like Moon Men or something of that nature in it, just to lighten up the blood and gore. But I feel that I'm better at writing the dark parts than the funny parts, but I have to think about it more.
Sure.
The comedy just kind of spills out, and the more outrageous it is, the more I like it.
Sure.
Most people, when they hear you write comedy, they'll look at you like, okay, get up on this box and say something funny, you're a monkey. And you're like, that's not going to happen. I mean, most most people that are comics are the ones that sit at the back of the room, take a drink, get to the back of the room, and they leave the minute the food's all gone,
Sure.
But it seems like it's coming easier and easier. And I enjoy every minute of it. I love reading it too. And if you haven't read Chris Moore, maybe do. They wrote a book called Noir, and it's set in the 40s, and it's just all over the place. And I even wrote him. I said, "Thanks for giving me permission to be goofy." And he wrote me back, which I was very surprised. I took a lot of his writing to heart, mainly because if he could do it, I could do it. Just probably not. Well,
well, I don't know. It has to be, because it's subjective, right? So you may not see it as well, but if it's you can do it differently. You can do it only in a way that you can.
Right. And it is different. I think if I had to pick one person to have a drink with, it would probably be him. I think he would be just hilarious. I think Stephen King would be hilarious too. I think the jokes would flow and you just forget you even wrote for a living.
Sure. Right. Between the dark humor would pair up well too. So
right.
Talk about
people that have
the pet cemeteries and things.
Yeah, people that have a dark side usually are pretty funny. I've found. So I'm going at it with gusto. Why not?
As you should. Yeah, I had on Michael Branch. He's a humorist. Does a lot of nature writing, a lot of humor writing and things. And he described it as humor's survival technique.
It is.
So it's like, he's like in the environmental community, sometimes, I guess people give him a hard time because he would joke about something. That's like the sacred cow you can't joke about, right? Right. And I'm sure he didn't say it, but for me, and I got the impression from him, that almost makes you want to joke about it more, right? Oh, you said I can't joke about this. Well, now I absolutely must joke about it. But it makes sense because when you think about it, you're like, you hear people in war, all kinds of things that they'll find moments to crack jokes and things, and laugh together and have that cigarette and some dark humor before going to the most atrocious things human can do the next day. Exactly. So it's vital. I think it's more than important. It's absolutely vital. So I applaud you on that.
I've gotten a few phone calls from the editor person. You really shouldn't write that. I didn't get that joke. And some of them are a little bit off the wall. And I'm like, this one's staying. There was one in particular in its new book that, like, I'm sorry, you can change and suggest anything you want, but this one's staying. And I told people I'll let you know what it is after the book gets out. I'll just sit there and make myself laugh. But you're right. The darkest parts of our lives, you find humor in. My mother grew up in Germany during the war, and right after the war, they had nothing. But she said that her mother, they had no coffee, and coffee to Germans is everything. And she hung a coffee bean from the light fixture above the table, and everybody had hot water and dumped their coffee cup into the coffee bean. Just to brighten it up just a little bit like that.
Right.
And I remember coming home after my son passed away, and my kids were in the back seat, and it was like the first time we'd really laughed. And my daughter said, those woods look like they're big feet, and would it be Bigfoot? And so there was this big conversation. It's a Bigfoot. It's big feet. What is it? And what is it called when there's more than one Bigfoot? And my son goes, I think that if there's more than one Bigfoot, but you could call it a shoe. So from now on, it's a shoe.
Sure, great. That's funny.
It felt so good, even though everybody was just shell shocked to laugh a little bit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks for that. So I think then it's my favorite portion of the show.
Oh.
I like to call it shots. So you don't have to do shots, but they are going to be rapid fire questions.
Oh my gosh. Let's see if my brain can keep up with you. Okay. I have some whiskey in my body.
There you go. You have the whiskey. I have everything on hand. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. All right. Very good. Here we go. So, Chihuahua apocalypse. Fake news or weaponize your flip-flops now and prepare for war.
I have a flip-flop and I know how to use it. I can hit you across the room 20 paces and don't piss me off.
Because at the deflection and everything.
Right. They're called chanclas in my neck of the woods. And it doesn't matter if your mother is 5 foot tall, you're going to run.
I'm sure. Well, that's funny because my wife is, she says she's 5'2". She's somewhere between 5 and 5'2", right? I'm 6'1", between 6'1" and 6'2". So you would think like I would be a scarier one, just being this like huge person. I have dreams that I get stuck walking through the house. Like I literally just get stuck. I was telling my wife that. And then the next day I'm walking and I kept getting caught on things. And she's like, that's why. Because every time you walk through the house, you get caught on things. But no one's afraid of me. They're afraid of her because, and rightfully so, they should very much be afraid for her because I will do nothing, but she will flip flop, whatever she has in hand, she will use.
It's method of discipline.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to spend my days at the gym, and I was pretty buff. And my husband, who's also 6'1", would tell people, don't piss me off because my wife can beat you up. And I'm barely 5 foot, so I get where she's coming from.
Very good. Very good. So what is an irrational fear and what is something you love irrationally?
An irrational fear are daddy long legs.
Oh, really?
I don't know why. It could be because my brother used to chase me with them, maybe, and I don't recall. But I'd rather be in a room full of tigers than have one in my room. And I'm just petrified of them. I put borax around the outside of my doors and like you sprinkle salt at a witchy ceremony because I'm someday I'll be 90, one will get on me and I'll die. That's how I'll go.
Yeah.
And what was the rest of the question?
Something you love irrationally.
Love irrationally. If I'm having a bad day and I feel like I've overused my brain, I will watch really bad reality and not even think about it. So that's probably a very big guilty pleasure that happens just once in a while. So that's irrational for me to love.
Right. Awesome. What is, and maybe we cover this, we've talked so much about quote unquote paranormal stuff earlier, but what is the strangest thing you have ever witnessed?
Most likely the thing that I saw in New Mexico, the plane that flew by, it was right there and it wasn't. It was as if it disappeared into thin air, and everybody keeps telling me it was a stealth and they have this technology that with mirrors or whatever, but it was just too quick.
Yeah.
And there was a whole parking lot with people that did see it, So that was very unusual. I'm just waiting for the aliens to pick me, Bill. I'm ready.
You're ready for a trip. I sometimes, right? You're like, you don't want to see a ghost, but then you do, right? It's like you don't want to see the aliens, but you do. Yeah, that's,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to broadcast it too much, but if it happens, maybe you get to meet the aliens.
My mother, when she was probably 80 something, and I just saw a green thing flash by our window, and she was so dead set that it was a UFO. And the next day, I read in the paper that there were unexplained green lights that had flashed through Denver, and so she actually had seen something.
Wow, that's really neat.
Yeah, it was really neat. And one time I was in my backyard, and it was one of those really cold days where the air is thick and the sky looks kind of pink when it's so cold. And I look up, and there were, I'm sure it was drones, but they had to have been far away, and it was doing figure eights and loop-de-loos in the sky. And I thought, well, this could be satellites or Skylink, but it was just not in a straight line. So that was really odd too.
Sure.
That was a strange thing to see.
What is the strangest, potentially self-incriminating thing you Googled this week?
Let me see. I probably have Googled, you're going to laugh. Tummy tuck pictures. What after a tummy tuck picture and what it should look like. And I closed it down really fast.
Yeah, that's funny. It's always fun asking writers that because, sometimes I'll be on my phone or something, and they'll be like, "What are you looking up?" I'm like, "Oh, it's this idea I had."
Right.
And there's no way to explain it from there, right? It's like and this is the story, and this is why I'm doing that. In fact, last night we were sitting. Michaela was here with her boyfriend Luke, and then we were all around watching one of the old Marvel movies. And they had made dinner for us and stuff, so we're sitting there. And I had this note, and the satire I've been working on since the beginning of the time. I'm just finishing up. It's called Pirates of Appalachia. And there's a little section in there where I call it the pirate chorus. There's kind of a Greek chorus between chapters, but it's social media. And so I don't know much about it because I never, I don't like it. It bores me to tears and things. But I'm like, oh, I know there's the swiping left and right, but I can never remember which one's a good thing or bad, right? So I look those up. We're like, oh, what's Tinder say on this? And they're like, why do you want to know? Are you on Tinder? Like, what are you doing? You're like bumbling over there next to your wife? I'm like, no. Hi, this character, and she's writing this song. And it's like, there's no way to actually to not seem like a crazy person.
Right. I'm sure that my Google history could land me in Sing Sing.
Right.
Because you got to get this right. And then it's interesting and you go off on another tangent and you have to look something else up. And, in between those 10 minutes or so that turn into 3 hours, you look like a serial killer,
Sure.
But that's part of the joy of the job, I think. It's looking up appropriate things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a question from the audience here. So I'll read this quote here. So, hi, Sue. DC from MI here. And I'm wondering about your thoughts on commas. Big fan. But it often appears as if you treat commas like socks. Everyone has some, and they are usually scattered haphazardly across the bedroom floor. How would you respond to DC?
I would say, DC, do I know you? Because I can spin a tale, I can get it from start to finish, but punctuation is like Greek to me. And
sure.
I can do it, but when I get on a roll, it's just gone. And I'm told it's like I take a handful of commas and throw them up in the air, and they just fall in my manuscript, and wherever they are, then Dario fixes it.
All right. Well, very good.
But we have a complicated relationship.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll put it up here if I remember. future me, remember to put it up here. I always joke the show was 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Almost every guest on here is like referred from someone else, and Dario Cheriello was nice enough to put us in contact. So up there will be a link to his episode. If future me remembers when he's editing this, so we'll see how well that guy does. Probably
I can't wait for your podcast on ghosts, because and like I've got all kinds of stories.
Right. I know I have to do it once we get this one well enough off the ground. That's the next podcasting endeavor. And lastly, the most important question of Shots: favorite podcast, and why is it Writers Drinking Whiskey?
Well, I have been watching your show for a long time, and I always thought I would be so nervous to be on it if I were to be. And I'm not nervous one bit. I don't know whether it's the alcohol or if you just put your well, we'll just blame it on that. But I do love your show. And on YouTube they have it's called Twilight Zone Radio Theater or something of that nature. And they're old Twilight Zone episodes. And there's nothing more relaxing to me than putting on headphones and listen to that crackly radio sound and a scary story in the dark.
Mm-hmm. I believe I have to check that one out. I love. There's one What's that? Oh, after. There's it's a YouTube show. I don't know if he does it as a podcast too, but what's the name of it? What Lurks Beneath? I think that's the name. And he just people write in stuff, and whether he reads some of these, but he does a really nice job reading them to where it's not. Sometimes people get a little too corny and it kind of loses me from the story, or they have no inflection, which is a weird thing. Me and my wife try to find things to listen to all the time, and if it's someone, she goes, "Why is it a robot?" Like, I think it's actually a person. It's like, no, they're reading like a robot. Change. But he does a really nice job. I mean, I like that too. I feel my earphones if I'm working around the house or the yard and whatnot. I'm like, okay, I'll just turn this in. So it always gives me something to look forward to. I'm going to go work out. I think to this end, I get to hear about the ghosts or the werewolves and skinwalkers.
I love it.
Crazy stuff.
I love it. And YouTube is so good at having either music to sleep by or it's almost like bedtime stories for adults, and they're so damn boring that it's like 10 minutes in and you're out, and I'm like, how does anybody write this stuff without just going face plant right into their computer? But works for me.
Very good. Awesome. So thanks for that. So I know you had something you were going to read from us today, so you want to set that up and maybe give us a reading?
Sure. The first little bit is from The Bone Shelter, which was my first book that I've ever written in my life. So I thought I'd read a little something that wasn't just goofy and funny and show people that, I can be as serious as anyone else. Olivia shrieked as she took a step toward her, and she ran to the front door. She felt him close behind her, his fingers clutching the back of her cardigan, fastening onto it for an instant. She screamed and swung her keys at him, slicing his face. He lost his grip on her sweater, and she pulled herself free, leaving the garment dangling in her hands. Olivia tore through the living room and flew out the door, letting the screen slap back into place, and sprinted back across the yard to the safety of her own home. She could hear him bellowing in the background. She slammed her door shut, locked it, stared down the darkness of the hallway, and flipped on the lights. Adrenaline was making her heart pound so hard it felt as if it wanted to claw its way out of her chest. She slept in the parlor that evening, the shotgun she had found in the basement sprawled across her lap. The next day, she had all the locks on the windows and doors changed. She never spoke to Miles Frank again, ever. The night after the locksmiths had left, and all was quiet, after Olivia had brushed her teeth and fed her goldfish, she slipped into bed, unsure if she could sleep. 2 hours later, Miles Frank stood at her bedroom doorway, with a white bandage on his cheek. He watched the soft rise and fall of her chest against her blue floral nightgown. He stood there for hours, watching her sleep. That's from the first book, and I have a tiny bit from the book in progress, which is like something completely different.
Okay.
Ismael Martinez borrowed his sister's piece of shit gray 2001 Toyota Corolla and discreetly followed Todd and not Todd to a hotel outside of Denver. A gray 2001 Toyota Corolla was about as invisible of a car as you could get, and he was in stealth mode. Izzy knew something was off with his whole deal. It just smelled wrong, and he'd learned early in his life to trust his instincts. Ismael was not a dumb man, but he was kicking his own dumb ass for agreeing to drive his van for legal purposes with people as stupid as Kenny, Aaron, and Ethan. What the holy hell had he been thinking? Ethan was dead. Aaron was either a murderer or on the run or dead too. Kenny, oh boy, Kenny. What a dimwit. Intending to go through with this deal did not seem worth the money. Izzy knew in his gut that if he continued with the plan as it stood, he'd most likely end up the king of the planet of dead guys. Uh-oh, here comes Todd, not Todd. Damn, not Todd really was a shorty. They were both wearing black suits and sunglasses. Out of the blue, Izzy wondered where the hell not Todd found suits that fit. He was starting to think like Kenny. All they needed to complete their outfits were a couple of memory neuralizers from that movie about forgetting we're aliens. Izzy scrunched down in his seat and kept watch. He cracked the window, hoping they were talking loud enough for him to hear, even though they were 2 spaces away. Ismael couldn't tell which of the Todds was talking. Not Todd's voice was bigger than his body. Hollymaker said just to off them when we get the goods. They're too stupid to keep their mouths shut, and I agree. The whole deal has been one gigantic clusterfuck from start to finish. I don't care if things go smoothly on Friday. I volunteer to be the one to drop them where they stand. Izzy watched Todd slip into the driver's seat. That was not a memory neuralizer in his holster on his hip. Izzy's inside turned to chocolate pudding when he squeezed his butt cheeks together. I'm out, he thought. The instant the Todds pulled away, Izzy backed out of the parking space, squealed out of the parking lot, and headed toward the highway. He decided to accidentally borrow his sister's inconspicuous piece of shit 2001 Toyota Corolla and point it straight toward his cousin's house in Pasadena. But first, he'd need to stop at Walmart and buy new underpants. Kenny punched in Ismael's phone number for the 6th time, and for the 6th time, it went straight to voicemail. What the actual fuck? Pick up the phone, douchebag. Kenny tried a 7th time. Listen up, asshole, he said to voicemail. I can't do this on my own. We need your fucking van, and it's sitting outside of the shop illegally parked. Last night, the cops put a boot on it. Kenny took a deep, shuddering breath. At least let me know where you keep the keys, he gritted his teeth. Please. On a whim, Kenny asked Alexa, Alexa, dial the nearest U-Haul. A young woman picked up on the second ring. At least somebody answers her damn phone. At U-Haul, how may I help you? Hi, I'm looking to rent a truck, a small one. May I ask how many pounds you'll be moving and what the contents are and how far you'll be driving? I'm not sure how much it weighs, but it's about $19 million worth of, he added, just a city line. Like, Kenny frantically dialed Izzy's phone one more time. Somewhere south of Canton, in a cow pasture, Ismael Martinez's discarded phone rang. 3 cows stood in a circle and stared at it as it jangled the default ringtone. One of them poked it with her nose. YouTube came up. Bonanza was playing, and there was a cow stampede going on. Hey, said Clarabelle. I know that guy.
Very good. Thank you for that. I love the complete difference in tone with the 2 readings too. It's always fun when you can have those different levels.
It just kind of goes back and forth through the whole books, both of them. It was a lot of fun to write, both of them.
If you've watched the show, so you know I say this all the time because I don't have anything funnier to say. It's last call. You don't have to go, but you'll have to restart the video. So I always like to, to end it with just something, a way to give back to the audience here. So, what would be your, one piece of advice to anyone watching, big or small, just to make their lives just a little bit better?
Watch what you say to children in a critical manner, because they are going to hear you, and they may take it with them for a very, very long time. So that would be my biggest advice: get checked for colon cancer early, especially if you're in the military. That's why I do what I do, and that's what I have to say about that. And I will go with you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And like I said, we'll keep it, so anyone that wants the link, any of their service member audience out there, thank you for your service if you're out there, and then we'll have the link in the description, and like I said, I'll put it in a comment as well, so it'll be right on the top there. And anyone watching, that would be the extra shot for today. So if there is anything, any causes you're passionate about, let us know. Put them down there. I will happily support them. Up to some amount, I guess. If there's 1,000, I may not be able to support everything, but please let them down there for there's all kinds of good causes out there, and it's good to be aware of them, and good to to support them as we can. The small things we can do add up. So if anyone does want more information, what's the best place about you and your work? What's the best place to point them to?
If they would like to get in touch with me directly, that is perfectly fine. My email address is r.sue.o'connor@gmail. I'll give that to you too. And if we've had a similar experience, like my family has, I'd love to hear from you and talk with you, because it does help talk to people that have been through the same thing, and where they're coming from.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks for that. And thanks again, so much. It was a real treat getting to talk with you.
I had a lovely time.